gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
It's time for the Early Bird Special. Bringing you the best stories from the world of sports and sports entertainment. Now, here are your hosts, Sparky and Burdick.
Well, good morning, Bakersfield, surrounding communities, everybody watching online on YouTube and Twitch. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That is Sparky. Sparky, good morning, my friend.
Happy second Monday.
I don't know about happiness, but good morning. Let them know what they're in for.
Good morning. We'll get into some headlines to kick off the show. We'll talk a little Dion. We lost another just all-out pro yesterday. We'll get into Caitlin. She's got a secret admirer. We'll continue to go over each division. Today, we'll go into the AFC and NFC North divisions. Another gambling situation going on in baseball. We'll get into that. Plus, we'll have our boy 24KG at 8 o'clock with our weekly wrestling segment. You can take part by calling or texting in anytime throughout the show at 661-842-2000.
And I am trying to figure out if we should start with Dion or we should start with Sandberg. Because
let's get the sad stuff out.
Yeah, I think we need to get the sad stuff out of the way. We lost a Cubs legend yesterday, a second baseman that was an absolute stud for them. Ryan Sandberg passed away at the age of 65.
Rhino.
I mean, I can't say a whole ton about Rhino. Obviously, I didn't get to watch a ton of his career, but the highlights that I have seen, obviously, I grew up in a Cubs loving family.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I did. My stepdad's mom is from Chicago, born and raised. She is a diehard Cubby. So I grew up around the Cubbies. I know very well about the history. And honestly, Sandberg's name gets brought up every so often. But like I full disclosure, I'm not going to lie about this. Sparky sat down in front of me and said, "We talk about Sandberg." I looked at him and said, "What happened to Andy?" Like, it didn't compute to me. It really did not. But we did lose one of the best second basemen that the Cubs have ever had, Hall of Famer Ryan Sandberg. It's 16-year career, a brilliant career, and somebody that I did not expect last night or this morning, because I did see it last night, but it was during my notes, so it really didn't compute to me until this morning.
10-time All-Star, 9-time Golden Glove Award winner, 7 Silver Sluggers, and the 1984 National League MVP. And I didn't know until I was getting my notes done that he actually started with the Phillies.
Yes, he did. 1990 home run derby winner too.
When you think of Rhino, you always think of the Cubbies.
Oh, 100%.
And if you are old like me, then you grew up watching WGN, and we were force-fed a lot of Cubs games. So I did get to see Sandberg growing up. Force-fed. Okay. I was not a Cubs fan. I was waiting for my Bulls games.
Naturally.
And sometimes it would join in progress because of the damn Cub games.
So would you say you were more of a White Sox fan than a Cubs fan? Okay.
Yes, 100%.
All right. I mean, again, I do not really. I've always preferred the Cubbies over the Sox.
I grew up watching the Big Hurt. So, I got to see Frank Thomas and Steve Sachs. And, at that time I was bouncing players. I was pulling the Kerr Club where I was just watching players. And that was when I really rooted on Frank Thomas and Kenny Lofton and Dave Justice and players like that. Mike Piazza. Yes, the only time I was rooting on the Dodgers. But that was the Hershiser days. But it's a big loss, especially for the baseball community and Cubby fans all around.
Again, I use this as a outlet to tell you all, because he died of cancer. It was a very private battle with cancer, but he was battling cancer for many years. Go get checked. I know you feel great now. And actually, the next story we're about to get into is another great example of this, because you may not even know it. Go get your blood checked. Go get checked by your doctor. Have your annual screening every year. You never know what's going to pop up in a year. And honestly, Cancer needs to stop taking so many good people, including people listening to my voice right now. It is not just athletes and actors and stuff like that we mourn who die from cancer. It's all of you as well. And honestly, I lost my grandmother to breast cancer. I'm tired of seeing people pop up with this, the big C, and having their
a good friend last week. The same thing.
Exactly. I'm tired of it. Go get checked, man. I know I hate the doctor. I hate the doctor. I hate the dentist. I hate it. Worst part of my year. But I have to go.
Yep, it's much needed.
You have to go. Now, granted, if you're in your 20s, but still, I still say go get checked because I had a friend in high school have a brain tumor. Didn't even know it. Thank God he's still on this planet right now.
I think my buddy over here is rooting that. He's got a head issue going on right now. He was thinking of brain aneurysm. But yeah, you never know, man. You got to go get checked.
Go get checked. If you feel at all anything is out of sorts, go get checked. Even if you don't feel anything out of sorts, go get checked. For Rhino's sake, go get checked. Because at this point right now, I guarantee you, I bet his family was hoping he went and got checked a little bit sooner. And I don't mean to throw that as out there, but it's true. And if he did, he could have possibly gotten 10 to 20 more years out of his life. I think every human being deserves to be on this planet at least for 70 years, 80 years. I think at that point, now you're playing with fire. Wherever you go after that is what it is. But to see people be cut short of that, especially athletes who were at the, were always in the peak physical condition and did everything they could to stay that way and shouldn't really have to deal with these types of illnesses, but go get checked. This is a huge thing. I hate to see these people go like this. And we'll use this again to shift over to Coach Prime, who yesterday, and we were worried sick at the end of this show. I'm glad to say that I was wrong.
Me too.
110%. Looking at the camera right now, you heard me yesterday say it. I will say it right here. I'm eating crow, and I love it.
We're all expecting some horrible news, especially when they announced the press conference will be with his medical staff.
I'm like, funny?
Oh no,
we weren't even wrong. We knew what this was going to say. We didn't know where it was, but cancer seemed to be the big question mark here, especially with his diabetes and a lot of the other health issues. He had blood clot issues back in 2021, which, I'm sorry, that actually saved him, because if it wasn't for the blood clot issues, he wouldn't be getting these regular situations, which means they wouldn't have found the tumor, which means he would be in trouble.
Yep.
Because Dion said it in the press conference, he had no symptoms. None. He didn't feel it. He
found it
no
in a routine
clue.
scan.
It was just one of those situations where he just kind of felt like, that's just normal for me. I'm getting older. He didn't realize how good he could feel at his age until they finally took care of the situation. Let's hear from Dion real quick. We got a couple bites here. Let's start with just his thoughts on overcoming this cancer.
I'm truly thankful that God is so good. God is so good. You have no idea. You have no idea how good God has been for me to be here. You have no idea. Thank you. Thank you both for everything. Let me add this for all you people that get upset when I start talking about the Lord. I never once through this whole journey said, God, why me? Because I would have to say, God, why being you sit me up here in front of these wonderful people? Why you give me the position of the head football coach of the prestigious university? Why you allow me to father 5 wonderful kids? Why you give me these relationships with these wonderful people? Why me, Lord, did I have some of the things that I have? I can never say that. I can never say the other side because I'm going to have to ask that. I said, Lord, whatever it is that you're doing, let me know what it is so I could expedite the process, because I know you got me.
This was so private. Shiloh and Shador had no clue. His sons had no clue. The only one that did was Dion Jr. And the only reason Dion Jr. released that video yesterday is because he knew his dad was going to be going out the next day and saying it's gone. They removed his entire bladder, replaced it with a piece of his small intestine in a prosthetic. Now, obviously, he's not going to be like the rest of us. He can't hold his bladder anymore. So if he has to go, he has to go, which I'm also hearing they're going to be setting up porta potties on the sideline now for practices and games. That's not a joke. That's legitimate. It's going to be there just in case Dion has to go. But the positive of all this is, as we said yesterday, we get Dion football for the foreseeable future at Colorado and wherever else he decides to go after that. And when it comes to this type of cancer, which was an extremely aggressive kind, a 50% rate that it could have came back if he didn't take out his whole bladder. And the doctors even said usually there's a 10% survival rate. 5 years. That is scary. When anybody gets a timetable put on their life, it's scary. But for Dion, to battle this so privately, not even tell his sons, so his sons could focus on the NFL draft and getting drafted and being the best they could possibly be. And to go through all of this while at the same time, his son's getting run through the mud, talked about in the worst possible way, said he had the worst interviews and all of this stuff. Imagine going through all this because he was diagnosed with this on April 14th. So it was just a couple months ago. I cannot imagine what the Sanders family has gone through the last couple months. Dion alone. But
just to pile it up because he was already going through a lot of health issues.
Mm-hmm. And the more and more I look at it, dude, the more I just give him respect for this.
Yep.
It's like, this is, especially being Dion, I mean, primetime, dude. Seems like everything primetime does is in the limelight. How he got this over on all of us and got through this without anybody even knowing he had cancer, that is wild to me, especially with the way the media is today. But I'm sorry, I won't hog up any more of the time.
I mean, that's pretty much what I was going to say. I mean, going in thinking it was going to be horrible news. Well, we got a positive spin. And when it goes back to just, coaching, this is what Prime Time had to say about, the future of him coaching.
I always knew I was going to coach again. I never didn't realize I was going to coach again. I was always going to coach. It was never in my spirit, in my heart, that God wouldn't allow me to coach again. That's never thought like that. It's just that I didn't want to be running down to the hospital once a week when I got all this on my plate. I didn't want that. And I was even like, okay, can they bring one of the machines and put them in the office? I'm serious, dead serious.
We had a lot of conversations.
Yeah, a lot of conversations. Yeah. And Doc would look at me like, he is crazy.
No.
Yes, I saw it in your eyes. He is crazy. Is he like this when he coached? Yeah. But we worked it out.
Honestly, I love that we're not going to lose Dion from coaching. And when this entire thing started, I was sitting there waiting for it on YouTube, and you can hear him when he sat down. He was in good spirits. He pretty much said, I don't know where you guys getting your information from, which made me think, okay, thank God he's not going anywhere.
It's going to be positive.
It's like, like when I heard that and he sat down with a smile on his face, all of my worry kind of alleviated. It's like, oh, thank God. It's like, Dion's okay.
And we needed some positive news, and I'm glad it came from him. We'll take our first break. We'll get into some other headlines from the last 24 hours before we dive into the NFC and AFC North right here on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. I love this song, but the original one is better.
Obviously, all the originals.
I just let me down. I'm sorry. I'm just like I'm so used to hearing just that blood curdling screaming. Here we go. Which one are we getting into first?
Creeper alert!
Creeper. All right, let's get Creeper out of the way. Caitlin Clark is in the news again, but not for the reason you would think this time, although it is for Wild fans. A 55-year-old Texas man believed he was in a relationship with the Indiana Fever star, Kay, and was arrested and sentenced to 2.5 years in prison for stalking Caitlin. This is one of those levels that I understand what fan means, fanatic, and I know we all love the teams that we root for and all that stuff, but I think she said it beautifully. They asked her about the situation. She said, "You can't get help until you learn to help yourself."
Preach.
Boom. Like, look, man, I know where you were at in your head. I hope these 2.5 years can help you figure it out and piece together where you are in reality. But it's much like some other stories that we had heard over the weekend. Some of you guys are using, believing we're in a simulation for reasons to do this type of stuff. That's wild. That's wild to me. We have to figure out where we are, though, in reality. You've got to be able to disconnect the fandom from your real life. I'm all for being a fan of certain players. I'm all for walking up and asking them for a picture if you do it in the correct way. But, man, you're a 55-year-old man in Texas. What on earth made you believe you ever had a contact with a girl who played at Indiana and Iowa? Where's the connection there? That's where I don't know. That's my thought.
I mean, on top of all the tweets or the personal message he was sending and saying he was driving by her house.
And see, I hear this and I'm like, we laugh at it. I understand. And there are people laughing at this in their car right now saying, wow, what a dummy. Yeah, it is a major health issue. Mental health is massive in today's society. And I realize that we have a lot of people that are just, especially with social media, who have connection to these people and believe that they're actually connecting with them and they're reading their messages and they're doing all that.
I get it. I mean, just working in the media, if we post something with a player tonight and the player views it and likes it or shares it, then we're like, cool. That's a plus, but we're also not.
Adam Schefter had liked one of our things at one point, and I was like, wow, Adam Schefter. Like, that's incredible.
But I didn't personal message him and be like, hey, man, thanks for the like. Hey,
but see, here's
what are you wearing?
Like, that's where I'm saying, it's like, that's where you have to learn to pump the brakes a little bit. And remember that these people are all human too. We all have our own lives and we're all living them. One athlete that I have to highlight that I'm only highlighting it because I just listened to her story the other day for the upteenth time. I've heard this story a million times being a wrestling fan, but wrestling fans remember the Sonya Deville situation that happened, I believe, just last year. It was just a couple years ago. It was very recent, but it was so close as this man broke into her home and could have killed her on her couch had she not set her alarm that night. That's how close it got. Like, her and another wrestler, Mandy Rose, a very famous wrestler that a lot of you may remember, were asleep in her living room on the couch with the alarm off, and he was outside watching them. Like, these are very serious situations. And that's why I'm like, we got to take this seriously. And if you are somebody right now that's listening to my voice, I know I've said it before, and you're one of these people that believe that, you have connections with these athletes. I'm sure you do. I'm not going to sit here and say you have not talked to them or met them before in the past. But let's also remember that they are humans as well and live in reality a little bit. Like, enjoy the game rather than taking it this far. But I'm glad that he was arrested.
I know part of the sentencing was he can't be on the internet during the sentencing, and he's no longer able to go to any Indiana basketball games.
Naturally.
Not the Fever or the Pacers.
To be fair, you shouldn't be on the internet anyway during your prison sentence. The fact that we give prisoners phones to begin with is wild to me. Just I know it's a well-known thing that prisoners.
I didn't know they had phones.
Oh yeah,
I know
No.
and then unless they sneak them in or they actually
I
have
don't
them.
know exactly how they get them in there.
I was going to say,
Really
I
have
know it's
no
not legal
clue.
to have one.
But there are situations where prisoners get phones in there. They have iPads and all this other type of stuff. Like, that's ridiculous to me. But
I'm just
like,
glad it didn't,
it
get any
didn't reach
worse.
those situations.
But you
Yeah.
think 2.5 years is enough?
I think so, only because there's no reason to believe this man was actually going out to harm her.
Hopefully, and
Hopefully.
hopefully he gets the medication or the counseling that he needs. And we'll move this over to the NFL as Christian Wilkins. More information
Other
is coming
freaky
out.
stuff.
And at first it was because of his injury, which it could be a little of both. But originally it was because he wouldn't. They didn't like the way he was taking care of his rehab.
Mhm.
They wanted him to have a surgery. And part of the clauses in these players' contracts is if one doctor, just one, says you don't, the surgery is not mandatory, then you don't have to have the surgery. It's not forced upon you. And it seems like the management with the Raiders weren't happy with the way he was rehabbing. And then we got some tweets that were saying that he was a little freaky. And now a day later, we're getting more news that a player was upset that Wilkins had kissed him on top of his head, which anybody that played football, whether it was high school or college or whatever, there's always the player or two that jokes around a little bit too much. And I've known, just as a Dolphin fan and seeing, the behind the scenes and the mics, that Wilkins is a different type of character. He's a jokester. He is one of those guys that just likes to screw around. And I think not only the injury, but I think Pete Carroll is trying to put, his own stamp on this Raiders. And maybe that it was just pushing the wrong buttons with the coach.
I'm not sure if the kissing of the head had anything to do with the release. I think this more had to do with the inability to rehab properly in their eyes, which, again, this isn't a normal or a traditional foot injury. I also want to stress that people who have been well in this conversation with Wilkins have said that this is one of those injuries that lingers for a long, long time, and it could take months and months to heal. So surgery is necessary. All of these experts are saying the surgery is necessary. I'm not sure why Wilkins doesn't want to get the surgery. That's the one thing to me. And maybe he's just thinking that he could play on it and that a surgery would just delay it even further. I don't know if that's the case. I really don't. But this entire story about the kissing of the top of the head thing, I think this is just collateral damage that's just being thrown on top.
Just thrown on top of it.
I really do. But let's hear from Schefter real quick because it's easier to hear from him than me. Let's hear from him first on why exactly Las Vegas decided to release Wilkins.
They voided his contract because he kissed the guy on the head?
No, that's not why they voided his contract. They voided his contract because there was a disagreement over the way he was going about his rehab and his foot injury. Basically, the team had been asking him to have foot surgery over and over. I think there were scheduled surgeries and they didn't get done. And it's his body. He gets to do whatever he wants, right? So I think they wanted him to get the issue corrected surgically. He kept balking at that. It was not getting done. I think the team grew increasingly frustrated over time because they wanted him to have the surgery done. He didn't want to get it done. Maybe he felt like he didn't need it. You'd have to ask him. I don't know the full details there. And so when there was a disagreement over that surgery, whether or not to have it, whether or not to get it done, putting it off again, it got to the point where they're like, hey, you don't get this done, we're not going to have you early in the year. We need this done, and it didn't get done.
Honestly, I think that's the long and short of it. It was the bickering between two sides of this conversation. One side wanted him to get the surgery. He didn't want to get the surgery. That's the other side. And it just kept bashing and bashing and bashing. And if you're not going to take the necessary steps in their eyes to go and play on the field and be a Raider, they're not going to pay you the money to be a Raider. And that is really where especially their lawsuit is going to be set. Because at this point, the grievance is out there. And we'll see if Wilkins ends up winning at least some of this $35 million back. I don't think he's going to get all of it.
I think he'll get the majority.
I think he will too, but I do believe that they're going to side with the team a little bit here and say, look, dude, experts are telling you need to get a surgery to fix this. You're not listening to those experts as well. So that is also showing that you aren't taking the steps just like they're saying. Now, they can't force you to get the surgery, but they can definitely fire you if you don't want to, do the proper things to go and play for them.
Well, aside from the actual injury, and obviously we'll be keeping an eye on the grievance, but the real question is, how serious is this injury? And Schefter just went along with that one.
He was supposed to have surgery a couple of different times out in Vegas, and for whatever reason, that surgery was put off. And I don't know whether or not he's going to have that surgery. I haven't heard yet, but my understanding is the timeline after a surgery that he might need could be anywhere from 12 to 16 weeks. So you're looking at something where if he had gotten it done earlier, his chances of coming back sooner would have been greater. Now I think he would hope to join a team later in the season. That would be the hope. I don't know that he'll be able to play early in the season, but again, different doctors have different takes. I'm not privy to all of his medical information, but my understanding is he does need another surgery, and that surgery is a 12 to 16-week surgery.
I know he's going to get picked up, but this is going to loom over him eventually. The teams are going to be very, very cautious of picking him up because they're going to worry, is he going to get the surgery or not? That's why I think we're going to hear sometime within the next month that they convinced him to get the surgery. And then he's healing from it, and then you're going to hear about NFL teams reaching out to pick him back up.
Probably later in the season.
I think
but
so.
if he puts his foot down and says, "Hey, I'm not having the surgery. I'm good."
Just to end this, I mean, if he doesn't want to have the surgery, then I think you're just going to have to live with it and see what type of player he is playing on an injured foot. Because that's essentially what you're going to be dealing with. All the experts have told you need this surgery.
Yeah, whoever picks him up is going to want a physical and see how he moves.
Exactly. And if you can't pass that physical, you're not going to get paid. So at the end of the day, it's really on Wilkins if he wants to get the surgery or not. Personally, I think it'd just be beneficial for him to get the surgery. Just wait out the 12 to 16 weeks. I know you don't want to, but that's 2 to 3 months of healing, and then you're back to normalcy and hopefully back to playing top defensive tackle or football.
In Miami.
Whatever city picks you up.
The only other rumors I've heard is a lot of the Patriot fans saying, "Oh, we want him. We've got the salary cap." I was like, I don't think it really needs the money.
No, I'm sure,
especially if he wins this grievance.
Atlanta would love him too. We just lost Grady Jarrett. You don't think that I would love a defensive tackle in that area? And we'll get into that in a second. We talk about the Bears.
Because that was one name I got brought up in my notes.
Absolutely. Now, before we get out of here and take a break and pay some bills, kissing of the top of the head, although very odd, very, very odd. I do agree with you, Sparky. I've seen some very odd things happen in the football locker room, especially at a younger age. But now, as you get older, I feel like you should age out of that kind of thing. So I do understand why professional football players would not be okay with being kissed on the top of the head. But do you see this more as playful banter, or do you think he went too far?
I think it's just banter. I think if you know the player, Wilkins is a goofball. And, at first when I read the headline, I was like, what? Like, what?
I agree with you as long as one type of situation didn't happen here, and that's little brothering the person.
Yeah, and I could totally totally see that.
If you're doing it in a sense of like, oh, good job, little guy, like, no, that's not cool.
If you're bored, look up some mic'd up from when he was with the Dolphins, because you could see this guy, even during the biggest games, he's a goofball.
He's got a personality.
Joking around. He was messing, our thing was in high school football is, getting the slap on the butt, and some of the players didn't like it. Some players were like, dude, knock it off. And it would cause, skirmishes. But we'll get into some more football news as we go over the AFC North and NFC North. Plus, we'll have our boy 24KG at 8:00 talking a little wrestling. So feel free to call or text in anytime on any of these topics right here at 661-842-2000. We are the Early Bird Special.
there. Right there. Welcome back. This is the early bird special. Throughout this week, we already told you guys we're going to give you a breakdown of each NFL division. We're going to start with, well, we started yesterday with the AFC and NFC West, which obviously we're not really a big surprise to anybody. I think we're pretty close to what it was last season, outside of the Rams taking the NFC West in the handed fashion. I believe they will. But today we're going to handle the north side of things, starting with the AFC North. And arguably, in my opinion, while doing my notes yesterday, I feel like these divisions are probably going to be the most competitive next year on both sides. I think both of these divisions are just ridiculously hard to win. You got the Ravens, the Steelers, the Bengals, and the Browns, obviously, in the AFC, the Lions, the Bears, the Vikings, and the Packers, oh my, in the NFC. However, let's start with the top of the AFC North, which I think we're probably both in the same boat here. Baltimore Ravens.
Yep.
Personally, I have them about 14 plus wins with an easy walk to at least the top two teams in the AFC. Not necessarily giving them the 1 seed just yet, but it's definitely going to be hard to take that away from them. On paper, easily the most stacked team in NFL this year. And they did everything possible to address their woes last year in the pass game on the defensive side. They brought in Jair Alexander. They brought in Awaze as well to be the third corner. You made strides in terms of the draft. You found a good second safety to put out there next to Kyle Hamilton and Malachi Starks. You got an edge rushing just monster and Mike Green at a Marshall, who I think, although, yes, had trouble off the field in between his college and now pro days, I think that's all going to wash away. We're going to see a great edge rusher for the Baltimore Ravens for the foreseeable future. And to be honest with you, when I look at everybody else in this division, I said they're going to be competitive, and they are going to be competitive. You look at the Steelers and the Bengals, as much as we love to talk about all the woes we've heard from them this offseason, they're still going to be competitive in playoff teams, more than likely. But I don't know if any other team is as prepared to take on this offense and defense in Baltimore that also brought in DeAndre Hopkins as well to be arguably the number one pass catcher for the team.
I was going to pretty much say the same thing. Plus, you have a Derrick Henry. You have some players that, have a year under the belt with this offense. I think this team is just stacked. And I think, Lamar Jackson, the Zay Flowers, you mentioned Hopkins, plus the defense is going to be stacked. I think it's Ravens. I'm not going to jump the gun and say they're Super Bowl, but I will say the same thing. I think they're a top 2 team in the AFC, and I'd be surprised if they didn't run away with this division early.
Honestly, they were number 1 in offensive yards and rush yards last year, 2nd and 3rd down percentage, 7th in pass yards. Now that you brought in a pure wide receiver that can catch in DeAndre Hopkins, I expect you to go up in those numbers as well. Probably jump into the top 5 in pass yards. That's just offensively. And honestly, the worst of their team last year was probably the secondary and their ability to stop people on 3rd downs, where they were 20th in the NFL. That's going to change. I think people like Jair Alexander are going to come in and absolutely tear it up. I know he had a rough year last year with the Packers, but the Packers still look great in the secondary last year. We'll get to that on the other side of this conversation. And I just feel like they've made the proper steps forward to just make themselves a Super Bowl contender, even more so than they were last year. And we were talking about them being potentially the best team in football last year. So without skipping a beat, I think Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens easily run away with the AFC North with 14 plus wins. And I say easily with very, very light intentions here, because again, I still expect teams like Pittsburgh and Cincinnati to at least beat them once. And that's saying something. Pittsburgh is up in the air. Cincinnati, if you have the offense to at least make it happen. Let's move to number 2, though, my friend. I have the Steelers in the 2nd place spot. Where are you?
Me too. This one could be way off or right on base. I think it's a very, very different roster from last season. And I still give this team, a couple wins just because of their tough defense. If it wasn't that they brought back or re-signed Watt to his contract extension, I'd be having a different conversation. But if you see, I mean, if you look at the team, not only Cam Hayward and Watt, but Patrick Queen, Darius Slay, Joey Porter Jr., Ramsey, you could go down the list. I think the Steelers defense is going to be a top 10 like always. And my question is still going to be on Aaron Rodgers and how quick this offense can pick up. And really at the running back position or the receiver position, aside from DK, if he can get out of his own head, he could have a hell of a year, or this could all be a failed experiment.
Honestly, it really could. The offseason didn't go exactly as you planned, right? I mean, I think the Steelers' original plan coming into this offseason was sign Justin Fields to a long-term contract, figure out how you can get him a secondary weapon. Possibly the DK Metcalf trade still happens. But I think that the route you went with the Steelers would have looked way differently if you had Justin Fields rather than Aaron Rodgers, right? And at this point, I agree with you. I think next year we're looking at a top 10 defense from the Steelers, as we do dang near every year. And it's because of their ability to create turnovers. They were in the top 10 in almost every statistical category last year in turnovers. The only thing that they struggled at was the secondary, much like the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, they allowed 66% of their completions to their opponent, which was 20th in the league. And honestly, we're 23rd in yards given up as well from the air. So when you go out and you pick up guys like Darius Slay and Jalen Ramsey, obviously you had that specific thing in mind that you need to fix. The only thing that I'm now worried about is that your safeties are a little bit, I won't say soft, but they're definitely just up in the air. I don't know exactly how talented your safeties are going to be this year without Fitzpatrick. But when you have a front seven that you have there with TJ Watt and everybody else, I mean, all you need is TJ realistically, but you also have Cam Hayward, you have Highsmith. I mean, the entire team is going to be stacked. Patrick Queen is a linebacker that can probably fly faster than any DB you have on the roster. And you've already mentioned Joey Porter Jr. is an up-and-coming corner that is just going to excel with two veteran, just absolute Hall of Famers in Darius Slay and Jalen Ramsey playing right next to him. So I'm very excited to see what we see on the defensive side. The offensive side is where my curiosity is here, because you have Arthur Smith as your offensive coordinator. And I'm going to tell you right now, him being a former head coach in Atlanta, I know the offense that this guy runs. And I'm not sure if it's an offense that Aaron Rodgers is suited to play in. And it's not necessarily that he can't play in it. It just doesn't really fit to the style he likes. We'll see if they make adjustments and, Aaron can make some changes on the fly. But last year, you're looking at a team that was 20th in scoring, 23rd in yards, and 29th in red zone touchdowns. That's not good at all. And we're talking about a team that was also sacked about 9% of the time in dropbacks, which was 29th in the league. So you didn't protect the quarterback, who is going to be running regardless, because that's just the scheme you run. He's not running because he's in trouble. He's running because it's a play action pass and he has to run on a waggle.
And I want to see if Rodgers could do that.
Exactly. So everything is lining up for, just like you said, this could be a great experiment and the Steelers could look like geniuses at the end of the year. Or this could all just be mismatched pieces that don't work out. DK Metcalf is going to be fighting people on the sideline. And
Probably
your tight ends are going to look good. Freiermuth is probably going to be a top 10 tight end in fantasy this year. I can promise you that. Jonnu Smith definitely will bounce back like he did last year. But in terms of just making this work, I need to see improvement from the offensive line, which I haven't seen you guys really add to at all this season. I have you at about 10 wins this year.
Yeah, I was going back and forth with 10 wins.
I think that's a fair number. You could probably reach as high as 12. I think that's the ceiling for the Steelers right now, and a wild card spot. But when you're going against teams like Cincinnati, who granted are going to be taking massive hits on the defensive side this year, and they were already terrible in that last year, and we'll get to that after the break. But you're dealing with teams like the Baltimore Ravens, who are going to most likely beat up on you. And like I said, I expect you to win at home because that's just Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh football is you do not lose at home.
It's going to be defense.
And you have Mike Tomlin. That is your saving grace right there, is the fact that you have the most consistent winning coach in football in Mike Tomlin. that, in my opinion, is the only reason that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to edge out 10 to 12 wins this year and second place in the AFC North.
Well, we'll take our break and we'll wrap up the AFC North, which I'm sure we don't agree on some of this on the other side right here on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Welcome back. I guess if you're a flock, you never left.
You're smart.
You're smart. That's true. This is the Early Bird Special. One last segment before we get to our wrestling recap of the week, and then we'll get to the NFC North on the other side of it in the show.
We'll get your take. I see you.
Are they? Were we getting blown up for our Pittsburgh Steelers thoughts? I know there's a lot of Steeler fans right now listening to me, and they're not happy with me for not taking them first.
We've got a couple of predictions, some
I'm sure.
wrestling stuff for KG, and we'll get to them.
Well, let's finish off our thoughts in the AFC North. Third place, and again, I say this because just for where they're at and how this defense has looked, and they've not fixed any of it, unfortunately, but we got to go with the Cincinnati Bengals, in my opinion. The Who Dey crowd is not going to be happy. I know they're not, and here's why. You may have had the number one passing offense last year, but that's because you literally did nothing but. We have to remember that they were 31st in rush plays last year, ran the ball 35% of the time. in which they were 93 yards a game. That's 30th in the league. And 4 yards a carry. That's 21st in the league. You have nothing outside of the pass game. And honestly, where you allocated your money this season showed it. Your defense is bottom half in dang near every statistical category.
It'll probably get worse.
And yes, without Trey Hendrick, and here's the thing. You'd have to think that the team with the sack king would be good at sacks, right? Like, at least the one thing that they're good at in the NFL would be sacks. They sack the quarterback 5.6% of the time. That's 26th in the NFL. You're going to lose the sack king, and you're telling me that he's probably all 5% of that.
of the sacks.
And we also hear there's been developments in that area as well, for those of you who are wondering. They do have a deal in place, and it's not the years, it's the money. So it came down to you're not going to pay him the money he wants. So maybe he's asking for an unfair price. Maybe he's not. Personally, you know where my number is for him. 35 mil a year. I think that's a fair number. I genuinely do.
I think he gets traded, and it just really depends on what they see the value. I'm sure they want more of the value in trade than they actually are offering in contract talks. But I'm on the same boat. I think the Bengals are the Bengals. I think their offense, they could put up points, and their defense is going to give away a lot of points. But my number one thing is how they start. You know, the Bengals issue has been starting off slow
every year,
and they begin the season in Cleveland and then the Jaguars. So they are 2 winnable games, and then they hit the road and they play Minnesota and Denver.
Here's the thing. I think that week 1 game against Cleveland is going to be all you need to see. I don't think you even need to worry about the Jacksonville game. I think if you come out week 1 and you get popped in the mouth by a divisional rival like Cleveland, especially like a rough loss like we're used to seeing you do in the first month of the season, oh man, that fan base is not going to be happy. Personally, this is me being nice, I got you guys at 8 wins. I said it yesterday, a team without a defense, I can't warrant giving you more than 7-8 wins. I really can't. Actually, I said 6 yesterday.
Yeah, I was looking at 6 or 7. They won 9 last year, which they were fighting to get a wild card spot, and they missed out. And I think if they start out, 2-2 or even worse, I think it's going to be the same thing or even worse from last year. But the to wrap up the North would be Cleveland, which only won 3 games last year. And I think, the number one thing is who's going to be starting, and is it going to be a young guy, and they're going to put their trust in the Shadors or, Gabriel, or are they going to go with, Flacco or Pickett? And really, like we just said, they start the season. They've got some talent on that team.
The Kenny Pickett train now has stalled, obviously, due to the injury. But I hope that they figure this out earlier rather than later, especially for the sakes of some of these rookie quarterbacks. I do not expect to see Shedeur Sanders as the starter in week 1. It's just not how the NFL rolls anymore. And to be honest with you, I think Cleveland would benefit from starting somebody like Joe Flacco for the first couple weeks of the season, just to get your guys a little bit of time to realize how quick a competitive NFL defense is. However, we just mentioned it, though. The easiest team for them to go up against in week 1 would be the Cincinnati Bengals.
Exactly.
So maybe you do. And maybe they just say, you know what, Shedeur, go out there and make these guys look silly.
And in that same conversation Schefter had with Pat McAfee yesterday, he was saying, we're all leaning on probably Pickett or Flacco. Pickett's week to week. Yes. So all this time he's missing is only hurting him in general.
But you can't also expect him to go out there and play injured and and win the starting job against a guy who's won a Super Bowl.
But
right?
they also say, if Shedeur or Gabriel go out and start slinging it in preseason, they might just start the season with the rookie.
That's entirely possible. And honestly, last year you look at where they were offensively, and they were pretty low, right? A vast majority of the games, they were 29th in, I believe, yards given up. And there's just really rough stats across the board offensively for Cleveland last year. And it led to the 3 to 4 wins. Personally, I have them going a little bit higher than 3 or 4 wins. I got them about 5 to 6. It's not going to be a huge step forward, but I think you're making the necessary steps to make this work. Although it's Cleveland. So Cleveland has been a dumpster fire since I've been alive, and I'm not sure if the ownership really knows what they're doing anymore at this point. The one thing that I think that they're doing well is the secondary. If you really look at the defensive side of the ball, they were great against third downs. They were 6th in the league last year and 3rd in the league in 4th down percentage too.
I think they'll be a better team than last year, and they don't have the Watson thing covering with the clouding in Cleveland. I think having these quarterback opportunities, and they have picked up some talented receivers.
100%.
I think it'll be a whole different type of team.
But again, when you had a bottom 5 rush game last year with Nick Chubb as your running back for the vast majority of the season, I know he was hurt for the first half. You had Ford on there too, who did great. There's a lot of questions I have for Cleveland, so I got you at maybe 5 wins. We got to take a break. On the other side, 24 KG will be with us, talk all things wrestling. This is the Early Bird Special on ESPN Bakersfield. And welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special Hour 2. My boy ran rough shot through the bloodline yesterday. So
yes, he did.
That boy speared Roman and Jay through the barricade and into oblivion.
Several spears, man.
Dude, I love what they're doing with this. I love that they're teeing him up to be the new leader of this group. But Braun Breaker has been putting on a clinic, especially at his age. Like, and for those of you who don't know, Braun Breaker is the son of Rick Steiner of the Steiner brothers, and has just taken the WWE by storm in the last 2 or 3 years since he's been in it. But we have to welcome our friend 24KG. He is in the building. We got to talk all wrestling. This SummerSlam is upon us this weekend, a 2-night event live from MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. Sir, how are you?
Yeah.
How we
Y'all
feeling?
ready for SummerSlam?
I'm excited for it. I think the card is looking really, really nice right now. It's a plethora of championship matches when you really look at it.
Very much so.
Is nothing but championship matches, if I remember correctly. But how are you feeling after last night's Raw? We had a good build up, at least for the tag team match between Roman and Jay against the Bronze. To end the entire show, I think we got another flat promo from Lyra Valkyria, if I'm being honest.
We'll get to that, definitely.
That's a week strong. How do you not know when the match is? Like, maybe this was a pre-recorded thing and she just messed up at the beginning. But for her to come out and say, in 2 weeks, I mean this weekend, I'm like, oh, great.
Well, you know, I took it as maybe they're alluding to something 2 weeks after SummerSlam. Maybe she fumbled the lines. But overall, her character has gone through a complete overhaul from
Becky
where she
Stompers,
first
dude.
started. Becky
Really?
Stompers, whoever's writing
Really?
this, they got to get somebody else for, because it's almost to the point now where her character is being spoon-fed these little quick tropes to get over on the audience to make her more likable, and it's not organic. One thing the fans of current day WWE don't like is the inorganic push, and there's a lot of those, but they're done correctly. Hers is not being handled right. But on the other side, the person she has the best matches with happens to be Becky.
But see, that's what I was just about to get to, is all of these matches with Becky. Are they not starting to feel like this is just, you know, when you let your little sibling play the video game with you and they want to be the hero so bad, but you're the villain and you're like, haha, yeah, absolutely not going to happen.
Absolutely. It's the equivalent to here. Okay, mom said I have to let you play, so just hold the controller and act like you're playing.
Exactly.
You know,
so it's like, I'm starting to feel bad for her at a point. It's like, when are we going to separate her from Becky?
Hopefully after this weekend.
Hopefully. I remember Sparky said a few weeks ago, you know, if they don't pull the trigger on this, it's going to end up one of those match situations where we're just tired of the character because we didn't get enough seasoning with her, with other opponents. You know, unfortunately, these things tend to happen. Who'd have thunk it would happen during the Triple H era right now? But hey,
I personally think that they need to move her down and get into maybe the the mixes in maybe the whole of their show personally, but
move her back down to NXT.
I feel like she was called up a little too soon from NXT.
I think so too. I think they called her up because they had a good story for her, but now with some of the other talent that have come up, your Roxanne Perez's, your Stephanie Vicares, your Julia's, she's very much overshadowed
very quickly.
Yeah,
in
very
that
quickly
regard as well.
And it honestly, and it kind of ruined her character in a way, because now all we see is her taking on Becky every single week. And it's just a rehash every single time. Because even the Bailey situation with her promo, when they walk up to her with Katie Kelly and have the interview, she's like, oh, what's your future? What's going on with you? It's like, we're still talking about WrestleMania with you.
If she wanted to keep it real, she'd just say, oh, I'm just waiting for Becky to steal another match.
Exactly. Like, throw some shade in there or something, make it interesting. That's why I'm like, if we're going to have a three-way storyline between these three, it needs to have a little more oomph to it for me. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Well, speaking of storyline, we got into right off the bat after another 10-bell salute and homage to Hulk Hogan, which we don't even have to get into. We can see the reaction on some of these superstars' faces, how they felt about that.
Well, I mean, if you want to see your Hulk Hogan thoughts, the video's up on our YouTube. We talked about it extensively last Friday.
Definitely. You know, and I get it. He was a cornerstone of their company, but the show must go on. And as the show moved on, we've had AJ Styles and the Kabuki Warriors in some type of impromptu
Mixed
woman mixed tag match, which actually
had some bomb spots, dude. I'm not gonna lie.
Got a little lead up to what we can expect with Dominic Mysterio, the IC champ, and AJ Styles, which actually woke the crowd up after that first 20. It took up the Hulk Hogan tribute, took up about a good 20 minutes of the show initially. And if you cut out commercial time and whatnot, which is a huge chunk, even though they have 3 hours. That's a lot. So once the crowd got into that
with
match,
the promo afterwards, though, it kind of made it boring. Because I mean, again, as much as I love, and that's me saying that because I love Paul Heyman, but we had a Paul Heyman and Jey Uso promo that was just
nowhere.
I liked it.
I mean, again, it's nothing we haven't heard before.
I just don't. They need to keep the mic away from Uso. Personally.
Hey, look, I'm gonna keep it real. When they were zooming in on the superstars on stage, I don't know what Jey Uso was saying to himself, but him and Randy Orton, they got the
what Jey was doing was Jey was telling himself his lines for the promo right afterwards, so he didn't mess it
up. Possibly.
I was like, you need to stop taking that bump before he goes out there because he looked mixed up.
I'm just
very much so because we already got Lyra shuffling her lines all the way around. We don't need it. And Jey Uso's known for kind of missing and freestyling his lines on the fly. But in the result of that match, you have a prelude of what we're going to see with Dominic Mysterio, AJ Styles. Who do you see taking this match at SummerSlam?
Honestly, AJ. I think AJ takes the belt off of him and we get Dom because I genuinely believe this AAA thing, and for those who have not been paying attention, there are a lot of WWE wrestlers in AAA right now dipping their toes into these title matches, including El Grande Americano.
As wrestlers and producers.
Yeah, well, now there's 4 of them or 3 of them. We'll get to that in a second.
Yes, we got to get to that.
And Dragon Lee and a lot of these other guys,
smiling Spark.
Their version of WrestleMania is coming up in August. You can watch it on the YouTube channel. It's called
I believe it's called Triple Mania.
And in that match, in that PLE, you will see a 4-way of 3 WWE wrestlers against their top wrestler Vikingo, for the main championship, which does include Dominic Mysterio.
The ovation he got when he came out and attacked Vikingo. If the fans,
Dom is huge in Mexico, dude.
Super.
Dom is massive. The name alone, the Mysterio name alone, makes him massive. But that's why I think he's going to lose the IC title. Because hear me out, I think he's going to win that AAA title at Triple Mania.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Ray is essentially the pseudo GM of AAA right now, and you can make an entire story of Ray and Dom butting heads down there in AAA, especially after Dom, because I'm assuming at SummerSlam, especially after what we saw on Monday between Dom and Roxanne, I think Liv is coming back this weekend. And I think we're going to get the breakup, which means Dom is going to disappear for a while. I think he's going to be down there in AAA doing his thing as a luchador and actually showing his wrestling chops for a while.
I couldn't agree with you. I couldn't agree with you wholeheartedly, even more so on that aspect. But Sparky does have a point. I'd have to say that you can't forget, though, before I even jump to that, Conan is kind of like Dominic Mysterio's uncle. He's also a huge part in ownership and creative of AAA. So with Dominic going down there, maybe letting go of that IC strap, we see a run with him that leads into something perhaps with one of the El Grande Americanos. So as this match went on, we got to just stop right here. Just go on to this inception of El Grande Americano right now.
Is this getting to be too much? Now we have a third one.
I think Dom's going to be the 4th one.
I think honestly,
Dom's going to be the 4th one.
I think Dom's going to be a part of this and be the 4th one, and he's going to leave his hair out so everyone knows it's him.
Honestly, that would.
Let's just leave this out on the table like this for folks that don't know. We have technically, and I think honestly, this new Grande Americano is Pete Dunne. Looks like him.
Yeah, that's what the internet is saying.
We have a British guy pretending to be a German guy who's pretending to be an American guy who's pretending to be a luchador
from Mexico.
My head hurts already. I can't.
That's what I'm saying.
Like,
are we? a Council of Kangs version for El Grande Americano? Is that what we're headed towards?
I think this is the way we bring back Omas.
Oh God, no! That you know what? The internet has ran with that too. That Omas is El Grande Americano.
You know, I think we're gonna bring back Omas as one of the El Grandes, but
we might actually see a good portion of these wrestlers who haven't gotten a lot of TV time don these masks just to get them a little bit in there. You know what I mean?
Because one thing WWE has been good at over the years is trickling in certain comedic bits that really go over and just create memories. Since our truth isn't being comedic at the time right now, we've got to find something that alleviates some of the seriousness of the show. This almost reminds me of a Doink the Clown.
Exactly what it reminds me of.
You know how many
they would end up being this generation's Doink.
They were multiplying like gremlins. You know what I mean? You couldn't even
Doink and Dink and
Mink and Stink and Wink.
Yeah.
And breaking kayfabe and all that too. If you didn't see it, Chad Gable kind of made it or let it slip on Sunday at the Twins game that he had his first singles WrestleMania match this past year when he wasn't on the card. So he just released that he was El Grande.
I will
doing it.
I will agree with KG though. I think and both of you really, I think it's the comic relief, and I think they're going to use it to utilize some of these guys that aren't getting a lot of action. And I think they're going to keep pushing it. And that's why I bring up, maybe Dom or somebody else that is just going to mix it up. And we'll end up getting a Survivor Series match with all four of them.
That's what I'm wondering. If we're going to get war games of all El Grandes.
That would be insane.
Americanos against just 5 random wrestlers that they've been beating up on at the time. I'd like that. Where is this going? Is my main question.
Honestly, it can go as long as it's popular or until it fizzles out. With this kind of, I'd have to say, steamrolling effect of how people are just expecting a new El Grande every week. This could turn into something like how you say a Council of Kangs, but El Grande.
El Grandes.
Here's an idea. Maybe we put Lyra in one of those.
Hey, it might help.
We do need a female. We need a female El Grande. It is on the board.
Well, moving on from that, we've got Sheamus and Grayson Waller. And I don't know what Grayson Waller's doing right now. They kind of disbanded his tag team with Austin Theory off screen. They teased it for months. He's supposedly injured, whether that's real or storyline, we have yet to see. But apparently he's the lackey for the New Day at the time right now. So I don't know who he pissed off in the back. But, yeah, that's what he is now. And he went out there and got the paws put on him by Sheamus, leading to Rusev once again stifling this man's shine. How do you guys feel about that?
Again, this is a great rivalry match that they'll keep going for a while. Probably get its payoff at Clash of Paris. It's not going to be on the SummerSlam card. It's not big enough, but I can definitely see a Clash at Paris just grudge match to end it off, because these are 2 seasoned veterans that are both looking to really propel themselves back into at least the mid-card title area. And the best way to get the most out of it would be in Paris. Both big international superstars that they are. And to be honest, I think they'd get the biggest pop going against each other.
I like Rusev, but it's starting to get redundant, man. I was just, as a fan, I'm just okay.
Well, I mean, same with the Sammy and Karrion Kross thing. I like, as much as I love this rivalry between the two of them, that's going to come to an end at SummerSlam too. And hopefully with a Karrion win and propulsion into a title shot, because I am tired of seeing him underutilized.
Definitely. Oh man, you took the words right out of my mouth right there, bro. It seems to me, with a couple months ago alluding to his contractual situation being up in August, and now we're approaching August and deals have not been struck or, laid out for.
I believe they said they're re-signing him and Scarlett.
They would be smart to.
I'm pretty sure that was announced, if not already done.
If not, well, AEW's got a fat money contract waiting for that guy right now, because he is nothing but money on the table.
I don't know if he would go there.
I'm gonna keep it real. I'm not gonna say a check's a check, but when you've built yourself up like how he has, the equity that he has right now, he is worth every bit of a new contract from
I get
WWE
that.
or something bigger from AEW if
But
they're
I
stupid
feel
enough
like
to pass.
he has built himself in the indies. So he would pull a Cardona and go back to the indies.
That
You
is
know what I mean?
possible. That
I
is
feel
very
like he
possible.
would get more recognition and more out of it of going to the indies than going to a place like AEW where he's constantly going to be going against Moxley pretty much. And
Well,
that's it.
this is also a question that only he could answer. What does he feel he deserves? Does he want to go back to the indies, or is that just something he would have to do in order to provide? Honestly, I feel like the man deserves to be moved up the card. That
100%.
Guys like that don't come along all the time. So what you can build off of him, and he might be WWE's next breakout actor. He is doing a bunch of independent movie roles, horror genre, split film type of stuff that looks really good out there. You guys need to go check out Karrion Kross, and he had a book come out recently that doing numbers right now. But before we even go into that, speaking of which, I just want to touch on this 8-woman tag team match that we had last night, which showed a lot of budding feuds or situations that might run through SummerSlam or even after and culminate at Clash in Paris. One that I'm really harping on right now, I really do see the whole Stephanie Vaquer and Naomi situation being a banger of a match.
Absolutely.
I think the potential's there athletically. They move very smoothly with almost anybody you put them in the ring with. And as long as we keep Booker T away from ringside, we're not going to have to worry about any serious situations that would get the network in trouble.
She went back to NXT for a second. I was like,
Oh,
no.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, man.
Like, we are
oh,
not
yeah.
going to do this again.
Oh, yeah. You know, and you just got, Booker T. And he just got, hey, look, Book, if you don't stop gooning on TV, please hear me out, Book. I'm a fan. I appreciate your work. But, you know,
it looks
for the
ugly.
brothers. For the brothers.
Not me.
Just stop. Just for the men with respect in general. I want to see, I want to see Booker T keep his job and not end up as that pervy old brother that's like, hey, shorty, hey. And he's starting to sound like that whenever she's.
And I know that's not who he is.
Like, I know, but it goes to a point of funny to where you're like, all right, man, you know, family show, but
you don't think it's kind of you don't think he does it now though more because the fans get into it on the sideline when it actually happens. They're the ones doing it now, so
he like it. You know,
he's just pulling that's why he keeps doing that during the Trick Williams thing.
Yeah, that's him
because the fans like.
That's him. It makes you a little bit uncomfortable, but you laugh about it at the same time. Now, with the action going on in the ring, I got to give it up to Piper Niven. She was really delivering some serious work and heat to Nikki Bella. Like, hey, I don't care if you're a Hall of Famer. I don't care who respects you. And I don't care what kind of, stroke you pull around here. Let me do this bottom rope leaping elbow onto your sternum and make the crowd go, ooh.
And it looked like maybe an early sprinkle of some Piper Rhea.
A little bit in the future.
Honestly, I can see them feud. But also, let's just rewind a little bit further. Nikki Bella took one hell of a super kick. And honestly, the way she went down, I said, yeah, that's what them 5, 6, 7 years off felt like catching up to you in that one move right there. We see it all the time with veteran wrestlers returning, getting their wheels back, and she definitely knocked off some of the rust. So shout out to her. And hey, going with that surgically repaired neck at the rate that she was going, I was watching certain spots and she handled it like a true professional. I hope she's all right. And furthermore, the match continued. And we had some previews to what we could see with a really good feud going on. Before I even get into that, though, Chelsea Green. She's been catching some heat lately online for her remarks about the memorial of Hulk Hogan and whatnot. Still goes in there. Is a constant professional. Is not dealing with social media right now. Can you see her recapturing any women's mid-card titles before 2026, guys?
Oh, 100%. It's Chelsea Green. I mean, she's easily I would say the highest part of the mid-card right now without being a main title person. Because honestly, you guys talking about the whole Piper Niven, Rhea Ripley thing. I'm just seeing them setting up the tag team because it's going to be Mommy and Mamacita here really dang soon. It's because that's really how they're going to push this.
I can see the Chelsea with Becky.
Yeah. I mean, again,
because they're going to have to find something else for her to do after SummerSlam.
Yeah.
But don't forget, that we're going to get a draft here shortly after SummerSlam. So we might get, some change ups, some curveballs, and some show swapping.
I think that there's going to be a lot of the swapping. I think that you'll probably see the Secret Harvest move over to SmackDown again a little bit more. But because I could see her going up against a Julia more often than against Becky.
Than Zelina?
Because Zelina, as much as I like Zelina, it's just not working for some reason. The fans can't get behind her as much. And the Secret Harvest would be a great team to bring in, especially with Julia now having some representation and Kiana James. I would assume she's going to get a tag team to go along with that as well. And we're going to get a faction, maybe the Kabuki Warriors. Just throwing that out there. Have a little anti-damage control kind of thing going. And I think it would just benefit everybody if you kind of make that kind of a move. But there's moves that need to be made, especially on the tag team side for Raw, because that has been absolutely floundering in most areas.
Definitely.
Outside of the Judgment Day.
Now, speaking of tag teams and the Judgment Day, we move on to a Judgment Day Tag Team Championship match with the LWO, which was a banger.
Hell of a match.
I mean, when I say JD McBeast, that's what I'm going to call him. JD McBeast. The man is a beast, bro. He came back from a crushed rib, a punctured lung, spinal bruising. The guy's indestructible.
That kick that Finn took. Oh my gosh.
Nasty work.
But again, this is what I'm talking about. The LWO have been down there at AAA working with all these luchadors, and just this is the product that you're going to be getting coming back. And I think you're going to get a lot of the AAA guys coming up too here pretty soon.
Now, for a second, I almost thought the LWO was going to pull it out and take those tag team titles to AAA and just kind of run roughshod over everybody in AAA. Like, we're the WWE luchadors. This is the level you need to be to, because they can perform at that level. When I say pack this guy up, Finn Balor right here is sending everybody to the gulag. All right. What I'm telling you, man, that coup de grace stomp, he delivers that so sweet. And over the years, you kind of forget how it really looks and the impact and just the full shock of it all. You got a grown man a 200-pound man coming down on your abdominals, stomping with his heels out. I mean, come on, man.
He's got one of the best drop kicks too.
Straight up, especially that like basement drop kick that really just pushes somebody in there. Now, with this whole build to the match, we spoke about it earlier with the third incarnation of El Grande Americano. This, with the problems with the LWO, where do you see more so, I'd have to say, Judgment Day going after this? Do they retain these tag team titles, or do they? Because I'm starting to get the sense that Finn is wanting to break out and more so do things on his own as a competitor. You're kind of seeing that. But as the de facto pseudo leader, we're kind of just inching along that progress of what we can see Judgment Day doing. And you know how WWE likes to do foreshadow. Hey, Judgment Day's still here. These factions came and went. Judgment Day's still here. I kind of got the feeling that Judgment Day might disband once Liv returns and we see all hell break loose in the clubhouse.
I think that's what we're going to see is we're going to see whatever change up it is once Liv comes back.
No, I have to agree. And I think that, again, you already heard my prediction. I think that's this weekend. I think they stretched the injury out a little bit and they said, she's going to be gone for a while. Like,
I can see Raquel.
I have to agree with you.
And them staying together, though.
It's like, I don't think you name drop her like that yesterday if she's not in the cards somewhere.
Thank you very much.
And honestly, with the match that we're going to see at SummerSlam on Saturday, Roxanne and Raquel taking on Alexa and Charlotte, who more than likely will be taking those tag team titles off of Roxanne and Raquel, it would be the perfect opportunity. Maybe she comes in and saves them instead, and they get to keep the titles, and then you have this entire, triangle between Liv, Raquel, and Roxanne for a little bit. But it's going to be an interesting Saturday, because before we skip over it, because we've glanced over this entire thing, CM Punk and Gunther had the best promo of the night, which was CM Punk inevitably just shutting up Gunther for the first time ever.
Definitely.
And I finally saw some actual anger out of Gunther.
It's about time.
Little blow up at the end after Punk put his hand on his mic and said, "Nah, shut up, kid. You don't get to talk here."
I'm not done yet.
Out, and Gunther was just angry. I think that was legitimate anger. I
Well,
think legitimately that was a moment where Gunther was not expecting not to be able to fire back, and his character now looks weak. Which
definitely.
means SummerSlam coming on Saturday, we may actually see CM Punk take that belt off of Gunther.
Well, we knew it was coming.
Well, if not, it's going to be one hell of a chop fest and a disappointment to all the CM Punk chanters. Now, let's get into the main event, folks. I got to shout out Netflix for not running the whole Jey Uso intro for 8 minutes straight this time. They
Like they did in the
went to-
beginning.
No, yeah, they got that done in the beginning of the
Yeah,
show.
yeah.
Not really how that
Reruns of
went.
it?
We just talked about it a couple minutes
Yeah,
ago.
yeah. You gotta get a yeet in, but I'm glad they didn't do it 3 times. You know, they've been milking that yeet out there, pause, for a while. Now, that part, there we go. Bronson Reed is just a mountain of a man that moves like somebody that's 300-something pounds shouldn't move, and definitely did his thing last night. But I want to point something out, skipping through the match, okay? After Roman Reigns came out, Braun Breaker's spear that chopped Jey Uso in half, knocked the Sonic rings out of him, literally, was a sight to behold. But let me take you back, just briefly. Growing up, when things would happen, and you got into it with somebody, and if it was really serious, and you had an altercation, and somebody left with somebody else's shoes, that's some serious heat.
I'm glad you
Serious.
brought that up. Him stealing Roman's shoes
I'm
at the end was
like,
wild.
This is some real street heat right here. This is some real street stuff. This is some real, hey, man.
I'm not going to lie, knowing that
bro.
he's a New Zealander, I thought he was going to do a shoey. I thought he was going to grab someone's beer and do a shoey out of Roman's shoes. And I was like, dude, what is happening right now?
I thought he was going to throw him in the crowd, but see the disrespect that he just, after Bronson cut that promo that Roman used to cut, this is mine, the cameraman, and this and that. And he said, yeah, we taking it all now. Matter of fact, and he looked at the camera and snatched his Jordans off of him and was like, these are mine now. That was real Debo.
You know what's going to be great is
It,
Sunday
bro.
or Saturday when they have their match and he walks into the ring
them.
and he's wearing them.
Yep.
If he got him around his neck, or like,
no, he's gonna be. I hope he's wearing them.
Now look, you know, back in the day, people would do that and then throw your shoes up on the telephone line and tell you to go get that, and it's like forever embarrassment. Roman Reigns has to crash out on these guys. He got to crash out, because if he don't, you just stole the Tribal Chief's Jordans, bro. If this don't relate to WWE's current fan base of the 13 to 33 generation of consumers, it's like, whoa, you took his shoes. That's important. I feel like that is key writing. That was dope. If it was on the spot, shout out to Bronson Reed. I'm looking forward to SummerSlam. We got a whole first night and second night stacked to the brim. Sami Zayn carrying Cross. We've got Tiffany Stratton, Jade Cargill. We got the Bronze versus Uso and Reigns. Now,
I read this morning that this last night's main event was actually scheduled to be at SummerSlam ahead of, Seth's injury.
That's possible. I could see that. But and don't forget about the 8-way tag match we're gonna get at SummerSlam as well. The TLC.
Also, we don't have confirmation whether Drew McIntyre will make it back to America in time for this match. He's been having some problems with his passport.
It's a work. If there's any match that's bled over into the real world, it's Randy and Jelly Roll against Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul. Real quick,
whether it's a work though, they do have alternative plans for that.
I get that. We got to cut you off though because we're running out of time. SummerSlam this weekend, top match of the night. Go.
I am going for Gunther CM Punk with interference from Seth Rollins. I'm calling it right now.
I think that's going to be a great call. Personally, for me, it's going to be the TLC match. I think that TLC tag match against all 4 of the top SmackDown tag teams going after that title, including the Wyatt Six. I hope the Wyatt Six end up holding on to these for a long, long, long time. But I think that's going to be the match of the night. Or match of the weekend, really.
I'm going with the triple threat.
Ooh, Rhea,
Io. Nice.
Do you think Naomi actually loses the belt?
No.
I'm going to say no as well. I think we're setting up this Stephanie Vaquer-Naomi run, but I don't think Stephanie wins on her first chance.
Quick question. Where the hell has LA Knight been?
See, we had several texts that one of them was the same question.
And you got to give these guys some time to rest as well. I think the hype of LA Knight has run, and I don't think it's done. Don't get me wrong. The LA Knight will be coming back and will be a force here pretty soon. But you have to remember, he had this entire feud planned with Seth, and then Seth gets hurt. Allegedly. So now your story is put on hold. It's much like your tag partner being put out too. There's not much you can do about it. That's just kind of how the business rolls. So he's on break probably for the next couple weeks to months until they could find a storyline.
Chilling with the Viking Raiders, I'm pretty sure.
Honestly, I could see the three of them running a team together. I could definitely.
I couldn't. I'm just saying they're hanging out. Maybe at a bar somewhere in Florida. But
look, brother, look. What if they decide to come in and run roughshot through the place? Who knows? I could definitely see Ivar, Eric, and LA Knight. Everybody.
Now you're so hopeful.
Stepdads of wrestling, brother.
It's the stepdads of wrestling.
That's what it is. All right, brother. We got to get out of here and take a break. Thank you for your time as always. We'll talk to you later. And we'll possibly get you earlier before SummerSlam if we got some time at the end of the week.
Yes, indeed. This is the last Raw before SmackDown. So, folks, tune in. Before SummerSlam. So, tune into that last SmackDown before Raw. Thank you for joining us right here on the Early Bird Special.
And don't forget as well, WWE the Unreal dropped today.
Oh, it's out now?
It is out today. So, you can go and check that out on Netflix as well. KG, as always, thank you for your time, my friend. We will talk to you next week.
Peace.
Thank you, my friend. This is the Early Bird Special on 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, ESPN Bakersfield. Back-to-back liners. It's live radio. This is the early bird special. Thank you to KG for joining us as he always does. There's one question I didn't get to with that entire thing, which was we're obviously going to be seeing a new member to set the group here pretty soon. I was, going to put that out there, who we thought it was going to be. Personally, there's a couple names that are out there for me. Ethan Page, obviously. Austin Theory was one that I would also love to see. And then LA Knight. Why not? Last person that Paul Heyman talked to besides Jey Uso before the Seth Rollins injury was LA Knight.
We had several texts regarding wrestling. I will. I'll save it until tomorrow if we don't get to one.
Let's get down our NFC North picks real quick here, though, just so we can get to those text messages, because I do want to hear from you guys, too. 661-842-2000. Feel free to give your comments on any of our thoughts and our predictions for the AFC and NFC North. I know we have a lot of Steeler fans here in the community that I'm sure are not very happy with the fact that I said that you maybe are going to win 10 games. But then again, a lot of you don't exactly like the Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback this year, so maybe you agree with me. Who knows? But let's get to the NFC North, which, again, is going to be one of the more competitive divisions in football this year, I feel. Last year was any indication. I mean, 3 of the teams were bona fide stars. Unfortunately, the Vikings fizzled out at the wrong time, but it ends up happening in the playoffs to the best of us. Personally, my number one team here in the NFC North, the team I would expect to win the whole shebang this year in their division, I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers. Yes, believe it or not, I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers. 12-14 wins is where I have them right now. I'm not 100% sure how the offensive is going to look in the pass game, but last year, at least in the rush game, I mean, they silently had a top 10 scoring and rush team on the offensive side and a top 5 team on defense in both of those categories as well. They put it together on a defensive side, even without a true superstar, because Jair Alexander was hurt the vast majority of the season. And obviously they moved on from him. So they feel like they have the pieces necessary to keep this defense going. I just believe that they've kind of made the right moves at wide receiver, picking up a great wide receiver from Texas and Golden, and have really just set up themselves to have a prime year, especially since the Detroit Lions are most likely going to take a step back just because of the coaching losses that they've had. But in my personal opinion, if you're a Packer fan, I think this is the perfect year for your team to step up and be that team. Just to put this into perspective as well, 5 of their losses last year were by 4 points or less. That's not exactly a difficult thing to get over. We saw that a lot the last couple of years in the South with the Falcons and the Panthers, who have been able to figure that out lately. It really is just one key drive, one key play at some point in this game. And a lot of the time, I'm not going to lie, it is Jordan, because Jordan is a gunslinger at heart, and he loves to throw. And honestly, that gets him in trouble. He throws interceptions a lot. That is one of their major problems. But if they could figure that out, and they could figure out the turnover situation, the Green Bay Packers could be a very formidable Super Bowl contender next year.
I almost second that. I don't think they win the division. I actually have them 3rd in the division.
Really?
I'm going with Detroit. I think with the changeover with coaching, yes, it's going to be a different type of mindset with that team. Obviously, I don't think they win 15 games like they did last season.
No.
But I also think that, they forget that the Lions were battled with injuries all season long, and they were still able to pull out 15 wins.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just with cut and paste players that, if you watched any of the Jared Goff and the quarterbacks, how they had talked about, this guy just came off the street Thursday and is playing Sunday.
Yep.
I still have too much respect and pride with Dan Campbell, and I think they'll still figure out a way to win the division. I just, having Aiden and a couple of these big pieces in the defense, and I think that offense is just too damn good to look over. I don't think they win 15 games, but I still think they pull out the division.
I have them second. Don't get me wrong. I think Detroit still makes a very hard push for the division. I just feel like the Packers, with what they have right now, what they showed last year against the 4th toughest schedule in the NFL, and now they're going against the 5th toughest schedule this year.
Their schedule looks tough too.
It's just one of those situations where I would expect to see some consistency from this team, and I think that what we saw last year against a really tough schedule proves to me that they are at least able to make it that far. Detroit, though, the only thing that hangs me up about Detroit, because you're right, offensively, they were across the board the second best offense in the NFL. They were right behind the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, they scored more than the Baltimore Ravens, but in terms of yards, they were a little bit behind them. And they were probably one of the most balanced offenses that we've seen. However, that's kind of why I can't really give them that credit this year, because not only is the offensive coordinator gone that led that offense, but so is the defensive coordinator that made the defense look so good with all of the pieces they were missing, and 8 of their assistant coaches. As much as I love Campbell, as much as I would love to say that Dan Campbell is the reason that this team is winning and is doing as good as he is, and he has turned around the culture, I will not deny that. He is not doing that alone. It's much like Dan Quinn with Atlanta did a couple years ago, or a decade ago, technically. With Kyle Shanahan there with him, he excelled. He looked great. When you have 2 guys that are capable, if not 3, of being head coaches in the NFL, you're going to look good. And that, I think, is what led to the 15-win season that you got last year. It was a perfect storm. You had 3 head coaches on your team. You had an offense that was absolutely just looking to excel and show everybody how good they were, and they did. You had a defense that did everything they could to stay relevant, and they did. But I just don't know if you're going to be able to do that without the leadership that you had from all of these coaches that were there throughout the season and motivating these guys and making those adjustments. It's going to be
a tough division, and I'll throw in my 2 cents on the Packers. I think you just pretty much circled it. I think Love tries a little bit too much. Yeah. And I think with a lot of this young talent that they are brought in, I think Jacobs is still a stud at running back, but I think it's going to take them, I would say, a year or 2 to get just comfortable with each other. And I think Love just trying too much, trying to be that Hall of Fame quarterback. And I also throw in, over this offseason, we've heard everybody and their mother talk about Love being the next Mahomes. And I think we see the reality of Jordan Love this season. I don't think they're going to be a under 500 team. I just don't think that. I think they take a step back. I have them at 3rd, and then I moved up Minnesota at 2, which is another question mark with JJ, but I like JJ. And I like the offense. They've got a stacked offense, and I would kick myself if I didn't mention Flores' defense.
Oh, of course,
is always going to be on top of the league, and that team is going to be tough.
Man, that was the real hard part for me when it came to the second half of this division, right? Is the Chicago Bears and the Minnesota Vikings. Although I hate having to choose between these 2. Personally, I put the Chicago Bears at 3rd. I think the Ben Johnson acquisition coming in and helping Caleb change up this offense. I think with the key additions you made, especially to the offensive line, we're talking about a team in Chicago that was sacked 10% of the time. He was easily the most sacked. This offense looked ugly. They couldn't put up yards at all. I think they were last in the NFL in yards put up at all overall. This is all going to change. This is all going to change drastically. All the things that we talked about with Detroit and how good they looked last year is going to happen with Chicago. It really is. Because if you look at what Chicago is built and how they're built, they are very similarly built to what Detroit has. So I think Ben Johnson coming into this is going to literally double the amount of wins that Chicago had last year. Chicago had 5. I have them at 10.
And see, I have them about 7. I think their team is going to be way better. I just think that division is just going to be too tough for the first year with Ben Johnson. But I think we see the uprise on what we're going to see Chicago building in the future.
I think Chicago really just needs to focus on setting up this offense correctly and figuring out a run game, right? I think that is one of the biggest things that they've needed on this offense for a long time, especially to give Caleb some room to work here, because when you drop back to pass and you expect this kid to complete 70% of his passes, but you're for dropping back to pass 65% of the time, and they know you're going to do that, it's going to be a lot harder for him to be successful. So I think if the offense can get redone and we could figure out the defensive side of the ball, because honestly, they looked good defensively,
especially is going to be nasty,
especially stopping teams from scoring. They were third in the league last year in defensive red zone percentage,
and bringing up, Sweat.
Yeah.
And
if you can stop these guys from scoring while simultaneously figure out how to score yourself
and getting Grady in there,
it's going to be a monstrous year for the Chicago Bears. That's why I have them at third. And unfortunately, that means the Minnesota Vikings are coming in last. I like JJ too. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that the Minnesota Vikings are going to be bad by any stretch, but I think it's just the unfortunate beneficiary of being in a really tough division. What Sparky was saying about the Chicago Bears, I kind of just feel about the Minnesota Vikings. I think that JJ, although will have the most successful season of all of the sophomore quarterbacks, I feel like that's because no one saw you play your rookie year and no one's got tape on you yet. So the sophomore slump really won't be a problem for him. But at the same time, when you're backed by some of the best wide receivers in football and arguably the best defensive coordinator in football and the best defense, because let's be honest, that Vikings defense is not going to go anywhere. They were number 1 in fourth down percentage, number 2 in third down percentage. They make sure you don't get a first down. I think that's going to be a successful formula for them. I still say they're going to be somewhere around the 9 to 8 win range and probably fight for a wild card spot, but I just can't say that they're going to be more successful than Chicago.
We'll take our final break of the day. We'll get through some of your texts, and tomorrow we'll get into the North, right? No,
tomorrow we'll probably hit the south of the East.
South,
We
and then
really
Thursday we'll wrap up with the East, and then we got a jam-packed Friday show ahead of SummerSlam. We've got a Money-Wise guy joining us at 7:30. We got our guy over at Dionysus coming in. We'll talk all wrestling pretty much Friday, and we'll sprinkle in some financial wellness in
and maybe
there
I
too.
can convince KG to come in one last time too to give our predictions on what's going to happen on Saturday and Sunday.
Right here on the Early Bird Special. reasonable. I mean,
We are not having a great radio day today. Good. Welcome back to the Early Bird Special. Final segment of the day before we get out of here. Once again, big thank you to our guy 24KG for joining us. All thing that happened at Raw last night as we lead into SummerSlam, the first ever two-night SummerSlam in WWE's history. It'll be live this weekend, Saturday and Sunday from MetLife Stadium.
or you can watch it at Dionysus.
Absolutely, and hopefully they don't pull some ACLs or have any lower leg injuries trying to get to the ring.
Dude, I was gonna say that I was doing my notes last night and talking about like all the sports injuries, whether it was wrestling, basketball, baseball, whatever.
At this point,
I hope we don't get that in the NFL this year.
Look, man, if somebody in the WWE gets hurt at MetLife Stadium this weekend, I'm just going to assume MetLife itself has some sort of voodoo around it where it's just you don't need to be playing on that grass or doing anything on that grass because somebody's going to get hurt. That's what's happening. So I don't know. I am with you. I hope we don't get that derailment, but it's football. It's what sports happen, or sports come with injuries, unfortunately, and that's just something that we all have to live with. I mean,
we do it every year.
We can talk about a CTE situation right now in the news, but we're not going to because we're going to wait for a little bit and we're going to let things develop as we always should. 661-842-2000. Do we got any text messages?
We've got a bunch of them.
Let's hear 'em.
The first one says, glad Dion is cancer-free. Great news to finally hear something positive.
God, man, I was so worried too. You guys heard me yesterday. I didn't even want to bring it up because I wanted to see what was going on first and really get the full brunt of the information, but I am with you. I'm happy that he's cancer free. They were able to remove the tumor. Unfortunately, he lost his bladder in the process. This man has had plenty from his body taken away from him, but as long as it extends his life, I think I can speak for the rest of us that I'm happy to see that he's alive.
This one is predictions for the NFC North. He's got the Bears, Lions, Packers, then the Vikings.
Bears first. Wow. Again, I would love to see the Bears turn it around that well. I just don't think you're going to be that high up on the list just yet. I really don't.
The Vikings at the bottom.
Again, that's where I have them too, though, but it's not necessarily a slight against the Vikings. I still expect you to win about 7-8 games. I just don't know exactly how easy it's going to be for you with a brand new quarterback and just a team that it's inconsistent on offense. I mean, just like a lot of these other guys that we talked about today, you got sacked about 9-10% of the time. That's lower half of the league. And with a rookie quarterback, that's not a good sign.
And then the AFC's got the Ravens, Bengals, Browns, then Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh at the bottom is something that I've heard a lot. Chris Canty has talked about it on Unsportsmanlike. And honestly, it's a good possibility. It really, really is. I think that just the pieces that you were able to pick up might not fit the schemes that you guys play. I really don't, at least offensively. Defensively, Mike Tomlin will make anybody work, so it really doesn't matter.
Going back to the Dion, he said, I'm shocked TMZ didn't find out what was wrong with Dion.
No kidding.
Rest in peace to Ryan Sandberg with what a great second baseman.
One, I agree with you wholeheartedly about TMZ. TMZ usually is the first people to figure this stuff out and know exactly what's wrong with everybody. So I agree with you. I'm shocked they had no clue about this. But I mean, again, Dion is Dion. He's very good at, showing everybody what he wants to show you. So maybe that's just his forte. Maybe he was ready to go about this in a private manner. And honestly, I think that's how you should go through situations like this. Go through it privately with your family, and hopefully at the end of it, we could all have a beer and say, congratulations, you got through it.
Going back to another topic we talked about in the beginning of the show, says the guy in Idaho that tragically hurt the college kids who's serving 4 consecutive life sentences plus 10 years can have an iPad after 1 year if he's good.
Yep.
He deserves nothing, and this is insane.
That's what I'm saying. The fact that we allow this is stupid. The fact that we allow any technology to prisoners is stupid. I thought the entire point of going to prison was to keep you out of society until you figured your stuff out. That's the whole point. It's adult timeout, right? So we shouldn't be giving kids in timeout an iPad. And I don't understand this world sometimes, but it is what it is. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
And then the wrestling text for the final couple minutes. One said, what do you guys think is going on with Grayson Waller? Where do you think he ends up?
Honestly, this entire thing with the New Day is clearly not going to work. I think that this is just going to be one of those situations where a wrestling sleazeball character gets, thrown in the muck a little bit and he gets treated the way he treats other people. I genuinely believe you're going to get a surprise comeback from Austin Theory at the expense of Grayson Waller, where he will most likely get a face run, which I'm excited for. But this entire thing, I think it's like a lot of these other mid-card guys right now where they're just searching for something to do with them because you want to keep them on TV so people remember how good they are.
And then the one was saying, where the hell is LA Knight? And then the other one says, is this Bailey thing a play? And I think the same thing with McIntyre is a play.
I think McIntyre is a play for sure. I think this is all a work, and it's just them trying to build up suspense for the match. I'm sure they'll be out there just Randy and Jelly Roll for a while against Logan, and then here comes Drew out of nowhere. It'll claymore Randy and take him out of the situation. But where is LA Knight? Again, we answered that one already. When your main feud was going to be against Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins gets injured, unfortunately, they have to find something new for you to do. When it comes to Bailey, I don't know what's going on with that one. Again, this entire Lyra Valkyria, Becky Lynch, Bailey storyline, I'm not digging it personally. I hope somebody is, because it's got to be for somebody, right? But it's not for me. So I think it's a work, but I think Bailey gets that belt eventually, so she goes back to being a Grand Slam champion. We got to get out of here for the day. We got to get out of the way for the great Rich Eisen. This has been the Early Bird Special on ESPN Bakersfield. Sparky, let's get out of here.